Okay, so this module for me is arguably up there as one of the most important things you can do when it comes to mindset. It's so important, okay? And in fact, I'd put it as not just in business and in sales, but generally in things in life. I think it's one of the top 3 things you can do. And that is build your confidence and your belief, right? Especially when it comes to business and when it comes to selling. Because you know what? People buy certainty. People buy from people. And if you're certain about yourself and your product and your service, people are going to want to do business with you. Whether that's as a customer, whether that's them joining your company, whether that's working in a partnership, whether that's investing in them if you're looking for investment, whether that's someone even dating you, right? The amount of confidence that you can exude and that you genuinely, not fake, but genuinely have, it's infectious. And I found that probably the biggest change that happened in terms of my level of success was the more and more confident I came, not just externally, but internally. The amount I increased levels of belief in myself and in general things just working out. Okay, I'm a spiritual man as well, so I believe in a level of spirituality, right? But the more I start believing in these things, the more success I had. And so I think that a lot of people talk about confidence. A lot of people talk about the importance of it, but they don't actually do anything actively to develop it. And the only way they think they're going to get more confidence is getting more wins under their belt, which is probably the best way, but that's just one way. So what we're going to talk about in this module is how you can do that and why it's important. Let's start with why it's important, because, well, I've just explained it a little bit, but let's take business. I said before, it's very tough. There's a lot of rejections out there. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of things that can derail you. There's a lot of disappointments. Now, the lower your level of confidence is in yourself or your product or your service, or even just things working out for you or in the world, right? The more pessimistic you are about things as well, and which comes from a lack of confidence about things, the more likely you are to give up, especially in something like sales. It's just natural you're going to give up and you're going to go, well, do you know what? This isn't for me. Let me quit or let me change. And you're not going to have that strength. But the more confidence and belief you have around yourself, your product, your service, and things working out, the more you push through. So that's one thing. You stay in the game longer, which eventually leads to success. But number 2, like I said before, it's infectious. People pick up on that and they want to do business with you. So that's why it's important. But let's look at some of the ways that you can get confidence. So do you remember when in earlier modules, I told about my story about how I went from not so successful to very successful salesperson? Well, one of the things that just got better at is much more competence, knowledge, right? The 10,000 hour rule, right? The 10,000 hour rule is if you do something for 10,000 hours, they've worked it out. Can't remember who did this, but if you do something for 10,000 hours more, 10,000 hours is a cutoff point to start being an expert. So if you've done something, selling, window cleaning, whatever it is, for 10,000 hours, you can consider yourself an expert. So that just comes from competence of doing things over and over again, right? But also picking up knowledge. That's why reading is so important. Someone like Warren Buffett, I think he read equivalent of a book a day, right? And he's the world's most successful investor. A lot of the very, very successful people read a lot because what are they doing? They're getting knowledge. So knowledge is very, very important because knowledge can be linked to competence. I should really say the two. They're not always the same thing, but knowledge applied creates competence as well. So that's one thing. You need to go out, learn things, but you also need to go out and practice those things. You need to apply them, and that will give you a level of confidence just through repetition. But then there's other things, right? One thing I always say is you need to think of yourself in many different settings now, but as a product or service. And you need to think, would someone buy you? And why? And a lot of the time we don't sit there and think about that. But you need to. And you need to start thinking about that because this is going to really help you with your confidence. So, couple of points here. If I was going to sell myself as a product, so let's take, performance coaching, sales coaching, I could say, well, look, I was someone who was struggling. I turned things around. I went from a very average salesperson to top 3-4% in the companies I work with. I helped generate millions of pounds. I sold into some of the biggest companies in the world, right? I created my own business from scratch. I made a very, very successful business. Having never had any business experience before, I showed that I was a success in that. So the reason why I am very successful is because I've been on both sides of the fence, so I understand both sides of the fence. I'm a qualified coach, hypnotherapy, I understand NLP, understand neuroplasticity and neuroscience. I understand mindset in detail. I understand selling and communication. But I haven't just understand it from a theoretical level, but I also understand it from a practical level, right? If I'm writing all these things down on my win list, I was on Fox News, right? I'm an international best-selling author, blah, 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 blah. The reason I'm saying this is me selling myself to myself. And I've got to believe in myself first. And these are all true things. I haven't made them up. Okay? So a win list helps you first sell yourself to yourself. And that, before you go out and selling anything to anyone else, you have to be totally convinced of yourself and your product and service, right? Both things. So one thing I would say is I encourage people to write a win list. Of all the things, you can make two lists. One could be, you can make different lists. You could write one, which is all your wins in life when it comes to business development and sales. One could just be all your wins in life just generally, right? And you can use it as a combination, but you must, what I call, marinate yourself in it. And I remember a few years ago, a salesperson who I was coaching said, how do I best prepare for a meeting? And I said, well, look, you have to do the regular things, the obvious things. You have to research the client, know your stuff, know the industry, know what questions you're going to ask. But I said, the biggest thing, and I always encourage anyone to do this, before you're going to jump on stage and do a presentation or jump into a meeting or do a pitch, is pull out your win list. Go through it. To just remind yourself, just before you're going to do it, why they should be buying from you. It's the single most powerful thing you can do. And what you also want to be doing with your win list is you want to be revisiting them regularly, so it's marinated, so it's staying in your subconscious, and that you really start believing it. Because when you build out a win list, it actually reminds you of some of the great things you've done that you would have thought just normal, but they're actually not. They're brilliant. And they give you also, so from a psychological point of view, but also when you're selling, you're actually putting a sales pitch together, they can be included in that. So one thing I'd like you to do is maybe pause the video now, and I'd like you to take out paper and I'd like you to write down, just start simple, your top 10 wins when it comes to business development or business, and your top 10 wins generally in life, and you should have 20 there. And that's just a start. And what you can do is you can always add to it, but go away and do that now. So look, if you've done that, you've probably start realizing there's a lot more great about what you've done, a lot more wins than you even thought you had. Okay. And the key thing with a win is something that you really feel proud of. You really believe is a win. Not even sometimes other people have said there's a win and you haven't really felt it. The key is whenever you write this list and when you're in it, you have to really go in the emotion of it. You really have to feel that belief. Okay. And this works. And I do this I coach CEOs. I coach junior salespeople. I've done them all. Okay. And this works whatever level you are. Right. You just might have different things written down on your piece of paper. So the next thing to how you can build your confidence is the use of affirmations. Okay, you again see the sporting world really heavy in this. A lot of athletes will say affirmations, which are things they say to themselves over and over again. They become like mantras, and again, their subconscious mind will start believing it. So what you want to do, you want to start small and things that you believe in yourself. So, saying I am the number one entrepreneur in the world. Well, I'm not. There are people out there who are doing so much more. If I start saying that, I won't quite believe it, right? So I have to start with something which could say, I believe I am one of the leading coaches in the UK. And I believe that, right? I think I'm well on my way to creating a totally world-class training and coaching company. I believe that. So start off small and start working on believing that first, which is going to start helping your confidence and getting you to achieve more. And eventually you can move more and more up that ladder, if you like. And I want you to think of hypnotherapy. People go to hypnotherapists, get hypnotized, and then a lot of the time what the hypnotherapist is doing is implanting affirmations in them, implanting new language in them that can obviously change their behavior. So affirmations can really work. And the key with an affirmation is not just to say it. You've got to say it with emotion, like you believe it. Because if you just say, I'm the best ever, and you don't really believe that, and you don't really mean it, and it's not going to do anything. It could even have a detrimental effect. But if you're saying some of those things, like I believe I'm one of the best, top 5% of coaches in the UK, as an example, which I do believe I am, okay, then I'll believe that. And if I say with that enough emotion, enough intensity, and if I say it regular enough, It's going to go and sink into my subconscious. It's going to increase my confidence. And then the next affirmation could be something else. So affirmations work really well, but if they're done in the right way, again, stop the video. Write down 3 to 5 affirmations that you believe about yourself. Maybe you don't 100% believe at the moment, but you kind of believe it enough for you to go, if I keep saying that, and I've got enough evidence there that I think I can get there, or I believe that. And start doing that. And then the key is keep repeating them every day. Start off with your 3 to 5 for now. Keep repeating them every day, and keep repeating them with a lot of intensity and emotion, and you'll start finding that you start believing that and really encompassing that, and that will improve your confidence. Okay, so the next thing of improving your confidence is visualization. Now, visualization is one of the most powerful tools you can use, especially used like by athletes. And this is where I love explaining. It's one of my all-time personal development stories, and this really fits in well to visualization. And in this story, it's the story of the 4-minute mile. So before, I believe it was 1952, that nobody had ever run a mile in under 4 minutes. In fact, a lot of the experts out there were saying it's physically impossible. And in recorded history over the previous 2,000 years, there was no one who had ever written down that they'd have crossed a mile in under 4 minutes. So everyone says it's impossible. And then that year, on the 6th of May, a guy called Roger Bannister in the UK, he was the first person in history, recorded history anyway, to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And, it was a massive deal at the time because he broke what people said was kind of impossible. He broke that. And there are 2 things out of this story that I think are very powerful. When they asked him afterwards, how did he achieve that? What made him do it? How did he do that? And he said, look, yeah, I trained hard and I ate well and all the rest of it. But he said, what I did, he goes, for the previous 6 months, I was visualizing me crossing that line in under a minute. And he did it. I said, I did it every day, and I did it with this intense focus. And he goes, on the morning of the race, he goes, before I ran, he goes, I actually just thought it was inevitable. It's going to happen. He wasn't even questioning it. He goes, I'd visualized it so much in my mind and seen it happen so much that he just was like, it's almost a done deal. And that gave him that belief and confidence to actually do it. Now, don't get me wrong, he trained hard as well. You can't just visualize everything. He trained really hard to match that as well. But without the visualization, he doesn't actually believe it would have happened, because his mind would have said, this is impossible. Everyone's saying it's impossible. But because he saw that vision so clearly, it became a reality. And athletes do this a lot. And if you go back through even ancient texts, spiritual texts, they talk about this and the importance of imagery. And imagery, especially with humans, is so powerful. This is why we have flags, right? This is why a lot of companies will use logos. Think of the Nike tick. Think of that. Think about that image when you see the Nike tick. What does it evoke in you? What emotions? What does it make you feel like? Okay, so that's why imagery is really important. And using visualization is using images. Now, if you can combine that with sounds as well, even better. For some people, when you do a visualization, it's like a movie you're watching. For some, it's just still clips and pictures. So how do you visualize? So the first thing you want to do is you want to get into a very relaxed state. You want to close your eyes. And whatever it is you're trying to achieve, let's take sales or whatever it is, you might want to create £1 million in income that year. You want to start seeing either images, maybe £1 million checks coming at you, or seeing yourself like a movie doing things like maybe, I don't know, doing a big coaching talk to the CEO of Apple and all the C-level executives at Apple, which is probably going to pay you a lot, right? So you want to start seeing images of you doing that sort of thing, right? The key with the visualization, though, is the more detail you can get into it. So the more you can see, what are those executives wearing? What does the room look like? Where is it? All that sort of thing. The more you can get into that, the more powerful it is. The detail is important, but also how intense that image is. Now, don't get me wrong, this is difficult. I found visualization very difficult when I first started because my mind kept wandering, which goes back to other things where meditation and everything like that can help focus to keep your mind not wandering. But over time, I got better at it, right? And just play it like a game. I mean, when you were kids, you were amazing at visualizing. We lose that as adults. You want to become a kid again. And you want to see those images. You want to see them in a lot of intensity, make them bigger, make them brighter. And you want to, like I said, you want to see it in either a movie style or in looking at it in pictures ways. But you want to keep it very intense. So give that a go. Close your eyes. Think about the thing you want. Visualize your success. this is going to help you with the confidence because you're going to believe that it's going to happen even before it's happened. Now, this does not replace hard work. This does not replace getting out your comfort zone. We were talking about that later. You have to still do that. But the visualization will help with the confidence will help with the actions, and the actions are what are going to get you the results. So do that as an exercise now. I really, really guarantee that it will start making a difference to your levels of confidence. The other way to get into confidence is a bit like how I said with the focus exercise, but if you can tap into your bigger picture, your DILTs, your why, it actually makes you more confident. Say take something like selling, okay? Because often we drain our confidence because we get into our head. So let's say that you're about to go and, you're going to have a meeting with, a company and their executives. And what might start happening is you get into I hope they buy from me. What if I say this wrong? I hope my slides look good. Hope I impress them. Hope that, we're better than the competition. And in a way, what that's doing is creating fear, and that's actually draining your confidence. But if you went before that and go, I'll keep using my example, that we're trying to create here one of the world's best training and coaching companies. I am a high-flying, high-performing, game-changing entrepreneur. We create game-changing products and services. If we're in that energy, if we're in that thought process, that's a very different thought process to I hope they are impressed by us. And by tapping into that, your DILTs on a regular basis, who you want to be, your identity, your behaviors, your purpose, etc., you will become more confident because you'll get out of your way, you'll get out of your own way. So I recommend you do that on a regular basis, and definitely before you go into a meeting. Just as I said, the win lists, you can tie that with even a quick affirmation, a quick visualization, and then really thinking about, again, macro, thinking about your DILTs level will increase your confidence as well. The next thing I say is make it spiritual. And what do I mean by that? This is not about religion or God or anything like this. Spiritual, to me anyway, a lot of it is seeing things that you can't, or believing that things can come into your life that aren't physically be able to see them, and going to a part of you that is beyond just your mind. So I find that when you're doing this is again kind of linked to your DILTs, but when you're doing things from a more spiritual purpose, for me, for example, I believe that a lot of what I do is because I think one of the things that I have to give to this world is improve people and get the most out of them. That's a spiritual reason, right? I won't go into why, but that's one of the things that I think I need to do. So now if I'm standing in front of a stage of 1,000 people and I'm delivering a speech, because I'm going from that level of I'm here to make a difference, I'm here to improve people, I suddenly get out of my head, which is going to say things like, are they impressed? Are you looking good? Did that sound good? For example, me making this video, I'm much more in my power of, I hope what I'm imparting is going to make a difference to you guys, is going to help you with your sales, help you grow your business, rather than how cool do I look in front of this camera? Do I sound perfect? No, right? I'm in that spiritual or higher purpose, which what I'm saying, it helps me with my confidence levels, and it could do the same with you. So all of these things are very linked, right? Our DILTs, our higher purpose, our spirituality, if we can link that all, and we can make it very congruent, we become so much more powerful. And another way you can get more confident is model confident people. There's a little bit of acting involved to a certain degree, especially at the beginning when you're not there on the confidence yet. Just watching and mimicking how confident people act. You look at TV shows, you look at movies, and there's definitely movies where they've been very confident characters. And if you kind of like that style, you can, to a certain degree, I'm not saying become fake, but you can mimic them. Maybe the way they talk, maybe the way they sound, maybe the way they move their bodies, maybe the pace of their voice, whatever it is. You confidently, if you mimic them, you can start getting a little bit of their level of confidence. And after a while, because of the other things you're doing, it actually becomes much more deeper and much more natural. Okay, so if there is somebody who you love the way that they sell, if we talk about a sales example, mimic that. Maybe in your company, maybe a colleague, maybe a business partner, maybe someone famous, someone you see on YouTube or Instagram or social media. There's no harm in taking elements of it, not being fake, especially if it's congruent with you, but taking elements of that to become more confident in yourself. And look, if you take this, becoming confident isn't a one trick pony. It's using all of these different modalities that we've just spoken about. But the key is to do it over and over again, because you're not just going to do it for 2 months and go, right, that's it, I'm confident selling the rest of my life. No, every level is a new devil. You might go to a bigger audience, a bigger stage, all these sort of things. And you're going to have to boost your level of confidence again. Plus, confidence will wane in life, right? Things can happen that can knock it. That's why I was saying I get my clients to do a lot of this on a regular basis. When you do this regularly, if you can make this into some sort of religious thing that you always do, right? Like brushing your teeth or going to the gym, you will find that naturally your levels of confidence are higher. You're not even thinking about it sometimes, and you will be in a situation that normally would have been daunting for you and no longer are. We've had one of my clients, she really did not enjoy public speaking, but she was in a high profile position where she had to go and not just influence and motivate her teams, but she had to sometimes go and sell the business. And she really didn't like it. And we worked on her competence on how to deliver it. But a lot of it, we start working with exercises like this and a lot more. We develop her confidence, okay, in herself, her belief in herself and in what she was saying and her message and her product and her service. And it was a game changer. She became so confident, and now she goes and she loves public speaking because she now realizes that it's a message she's delivering that's helping, whether it's teams or getting her company's product and service out there, which is again helping other businesses. So I've seen people who were really, really not liking doing something, tap into their confidence, become brilliant at it, and start enjoying it as well. So look, give those exercises a try. Do them continuously. Confidence is like a muscle you must work on. You don't just go to the gym for a month, work really hard and go, oh, that's it, I've got my body for life. No, you have to keep going. And there'll be times when you need to do it more intensely. Maybe once you get it to a certain level, you can ease off a bit. But the key is to persistently and consistently always do it. So work on that, because the more confident you are in yourself, the more confident you are in your product and your service and things working out, the more likely you're going to take the right actions and do them consistently to get the results, especially take something like sales, to get the results that you need. So good luck.